Minecraft UHCs are a highly competitive, intense battle royale style game mode based around PvP. The game mode has a rich history dating back over 8 years now and is responsible for changing or adding some core features to Minecraft which are used to this day. The game mode saw wild popularity, but these days it's a shadow of its former self, with many UHC servers shutting down forever. So what happened? Well, let me begin by explaining what UHC is. First of all, UHC is not just a weird version of Hunger Games. UHC, which stands for Ultra Hardcore, is significantly more difficult and hardcore as its name suggests. In UHC, you are allowed to break and place any blocks you want, and you gather your items. You don't find them in chests like Hunger Games. But the main feature of UHC, which is what it's well known for, and what makes it hardcore, is the fact that you do not naturally regenerate health like you do in normal survival Minecraft, and the only way to regenerate health in UHC is through rare items such as golden apples and potions. UHCs also go on for significantly longer, normally around 40 minutes to an hour, and have many more players. A normal UHC can have anywhere between 100 and 300 players, and instead of starting in the middle of a small map like in Hunger Games, players are randomly teleported into a generated map, often about 2,000 by 2,000 blocks big. The world border also shrinks over time after the grace period is ended, but apart from that, the game has the same goal as Hunger Games. The last player standing wins, or in the case of teams, the last team standing wins. But it wasn't always like this. In fact, the very first UHCs were wildly different. On February the 22nd, 2012, the first ever UHC took place. A YouTuber by the name of Good Boulderfist, who was an active member of the popular vanilla SMP, Mindcrack, had done a few single-player challenge series, such as Iron Man, where he wouldn't allow himself to regenerate health. At the time, he wished there was a mod which could do this for him, and fortunately for him, another member of Mindcrack, Vintage Beef, contacted a mod maker. A mod was then made, and would later be known as the UHC mod. Its core features were that it wouldn't allow you to naturally regenerate health. The UHC mod also changed the recipe of golden apples to require golden ingots instead of nuggets, changed the recipe of glistening melons to require gold blocks instead of gold ingots, made regeneration potions only obtainable with gold blocks, and made ghast drop gold instead of ghast tears. So now this brings us to the first ever UHC, where 4 players from the Minecraft server, Good, Vintage Beef, Pause Unpause, and W92 Barge, tried to kill the Ender Dragon without being able to regenerate health, a very different format to the UHC we see today. They failed the first attempt, so decided to do the same thing again, but this time were successful. The third UHC is where the UHC we see today would begin to take shape. Named Minecraft Ultra Hardcore, it featured 8 participants, all part of the Minecraft server, who would attempt to kill all other players and be the last player standing in an all-out free-for-all. And keeping with the theme of hardcore, you of course were not allowed to regenerate health. Good would be the last man standing, going down in history as the winner of the first ever UHC. The fourth Minecraft UHC featured the same players, but this time they were split into 2 teams, and there were 2 ways to win, either by killing all players of the opposite team, or by completing a monument. The monument was basically a redstone contraption which would spit out a block every few seconds, and if you stood by it and placed all the blocks in, your team would win. Team Duke, consisting of the 4 newer players, managed to win by eliminating all of the enemy team. The next several Minecraft UHCs would be all of similar free-for-all style, and gradually increased in participants over time. However, in the 11th UHC, something incredible would happen. Dinnerbone, a technical director at Mojang, joined in and played in the Minecraft UHC. As I mentioned earlier, for UHC to work, it required a mod, which would disable natural health regeneration. Dinnerbone, after playing the UHC, was able to introduce a new game rule into Minecraft called Game Rule Natural Regeneration, which if toggled off, would prevent players from naturally regenerating health. This game rule probably would have never been introduced if it wasn't for Minecraft UHC. Dinnerbone would continue to play in future UHCs, as the popularity of the game mode grew larger and larger. Later on, even more features would be introduced into Minecraft, such as the Spread Players command, which spread players randomly within a certain radius, and customizable world borders, which could be set up to shrink over time. As with the game rule, it is unlikely that these features would have been introduced into Minecraft if it weren't for the Minecraft UHC, which really shows their impact on Minecraft as a whole. To this date, there have been 30 Minecraft UHCs, with the most recent occurring on February the 14th this year, but unfortunately, many of the OG Minecraft players no longer participate. It has officially been over 8 years since the first UHC now, but the story of UHC doesn't end there. In fact, it has only just begun. Let's go back to 2012 now. The first few Minecraft UHCs had roaring success, and inspired by them, other communities and players wanted to join in or create UHCs of their own. This is where the subreddit r/ultrahardcore comes in, one of the first UHC communities. The subreddit was created to organize and make it easier for players to join and participate in UHCs. The subreddit allowed any member of the public to join, and unlike Minecraft UHC, it wasn't just exclusive to YouTubers at the time. So how it worked was there would be posts announcing when certain UHCs were going to be run, including what time, what day, and any other server information. Players would then have to sign up in advance, often days before the UHC actually took place. Due to the popularity of UHC and the limitations of Minecraft server player capabilities, sometimes players would miss out or sign up too late, being forced to try and join other UHCs. Aside from general UHCs, the Reddit community would also host UHCs with certain twists or scenarios, such as Sky High, whereby players take damage if they go to the ground, being forced to build up high in the sky. This is where this famous moment comes from.
Ow! I'm outie. Pearls don't fall faster. Oh!
All in all, the community was great, and the amount of UHC games being run on there were astounding. The r/ultrahardcore community flourished, thousands of player-hosted UHCs were played, and the subreddit currently has 12,000 members. These days, however, the subreddit is much more quiet due to things we'll talk about later in the video, but there is also a calendar website now, which displays when and where UHCs are going to happen, which somewhat replaced the subreddit. But as UHC continued to grow and become more popular, more and more communities would pop up, such as Cube UHC. Cube UHC was created by the Canadian YouTuber Grazer10 and was heavily inspired by Minecraft UHC. Cube UHC also began in a similar fashion to Minecraft's, as initially there was a Cube SMP server, and players part of the SMP would occasionally participate in UHCs. Cube UHC would grow much larger though, would branch outside of the Cube community, involving many other YouTubers and players. This is where many YouTubers who still upload UHC content today got their first decent publicity. Interestingly, Cube UHC has an episode feature, whereby all players were told after a certain period of time when an episode ended, so that they could stop or cut their recordings. This would ensure that all the YouTubers could sync their uploads and episodes as to not spoil the results of the UHC. Cube UHC has had 21 seasons, the last happening on August the 27th, 2019. So now this brings us to arguably one of the biggest things to ever happen to UHC, the Badline network. Badline were the first to really refine UHCs on a technical server side. You see, at the time, most UHCs were capped at about 100 players, as if they had more the game would become too laggy and unenjoyable. But both founders of Badline were very experienced in this field, as Archibot was a computer engineer and Master G Berry was a computer scientist, and they had a lot of knowledge in coding and optimization. They knew that they could host bigger and better UHCs, and the first UHC they hosted featured an astounding 250 players. However, when they first advertised their UHC on the r/ultrahardcore subreddit, they were laughed at, as players did not believe they could host such a large UHC. But they proved the established community wrong, hosting many large 250 player UHCs, or even upwards of 300 players. But they still had one problem. So many people wanted to play that even with their large player slots, they would still have another 200 to 300 players who missed out. They ended up hosting a few even larger UHCs, the largest with about 1100 players. Badline is where the game mode really became more public and accessible to the wider Minecraft community. It's also where YouTube content really began to grow. During this period of time, UHC was arguably at its peak, with the most people playing it and the most people watching it on YouTube. However, with the closing of Badline in May of 2018, Badline UHC also shut down, marking the end of UHC's peak period. This brings us to HYPIXEL UHC now, originally being added to the server in 2015. HYPIXEL's UHCs are slightly smaller than more traditional UHCs, normally featuring only about 70 players. The games also go a lot faster, as there is only a 10-minute grace period, and the world border shrinks at an increasing speed. There is also a deathmatch feature in HYPIXEL UHC, teleporting all players to a certain area if the games go too long. HYPIXEL also added its own unique touch to the game, with unlockable kits and crafts which can give players an edge over others. These extra features are a bit hit and miss however, as they can make the game more fun and interesting, but can also deter players who dislike in-game advantages. They can also be fairly difficult to unlock, and can take some time, which players would rather invest elsewhere. However, as it stands today, HYPIXEL is one of the only, if not the only server where you can join UHCs at any time like a minigame, as all other UHCs outside of HYPIXEL are scheduled or sign-up based. HYPIXEL UHC is also relatively popular still, often seeing upwards of 500 players. But alas, it has big issues, often talked about by long-time UHC players and UHC content creators. The game mode is overrun by cheaters, Whether they are blatant or closet cheating, it doesn't matter as there are so many. Too often you'll be watching a YouTuber play UHC on HYPIXEL and they'll start complaining about the rampant cheater problem the server has, or will quickly try and report somebody in game in hopes that they are banned before they kill everyone. This has frustrated many players who have quit or moved on to other games as a result. So where is UHC today? Or to say the least, it's nowhere near as popular as it used to be, and this is due to multiple reasons. Like many other competitive Minecraft game modes which are based around PvP, the game mode is stuck in version 1.7 and 1.8, as in 2016, 1.9 was released, changing the combat mechanics for the worse. This means UHCs can start to get repetitive or stale, as they never feature any new Minecraft content, causing most players to lose interest. As well as that, Minecraft began on a downwards decline during 2016, and many players may have lost interest or switched to another game such as Fortnite or Overwatch. Some people who began on UHC even went professional in these games, such as Dante, who went pro in Overwatch. Many UHC servers which were once popular also shut down, making it harder to find and play games, and cheaters became an even larger problem on the few servers which did stay up. Some players also believe that UHC is just a flawed game mode, and once people finally figured out how to play it properly, it got boring, as the game became much more slow paced, as players would mine for most of the game instead of fighting. Fights also became more about using a bow and running, and less about actual melee combat, which many players found boring. If I had to give my own opinion, I think it's the lack of ability to update to new Minecraft versions, and the game becoming frustrating or boring over time due to lack of proper competitive MMR system, as well as cheaters running multiple games over and over. What's left then? Well, HYPIXEL is the go-to place for UHC still, and the Reddit community is still somewhat active. You can go to the Reddit UHC's calendar website and see that there are still plenty of scheduled games which you can play in. But most of these scheduled games have quirks or modifications and are no longer vanilla, as it seems that most players are bored or sick of vanilla UHCs. Surprisingly enough, some UHC YouTubers such as HYPIXEL are doing relatively well, especially with YouTube UHCs such as Untitled UHC still running occasionally, but many other YouTubers have quit or no longer make content for Minecraft. So that's the story of UHC, a game mode with rich history which has been around for over 8 years now, that seems to have faded over the last few years. While UHCs are still being run and still do see players, the game mode is a shadow of its former self. I didn't cover everything about UHCs in this video, as if so the video would have gone on for too long. But HYPIXEL has a great hour-long documentary about UHC, which you may want to check out. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to comment any of your experiences with UHC. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.